Controlled Chaos here. I am here with a developer from Stars Reach Light. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing really good. I'm having fun with the GovBot update, the politics and things like that, and just enjoying my time with it and surprised with a lot of the things that you guys have done. But it's also brought a lot of questions because you guys gave some details in the patch notes, but there was some things left out. I'm curious about. I'm gonna see how you answer these and what direction things go, because I know how with developers it can be that sometimes you just can't answer the question because it's something still in works, or it's something you want to be a surprise for the players and things like that. And I want to do the journalistic thing of asking some of those hard questions that you're like, I can't answer that. And sometimes when I do that, it makes me feel good that I'm doing my job, but also makes me feel bad because you see the look on the developer's face of, I really want to answer that question, but I can't. So it's sort of a 50-50 thing. But anyways, with the GovBot update, I want to know, have you been watching what players have been doing since you had a massive hand? This is your handiwork of development in this. Have you been watching what players are doing, and what are your thoughts of what players have been doing with the GovBot?
Yeah, we've definitely been keeping an eye on things. One thing is, like, we've been looking at some of the feedback in particular. Like, there's a lot of players have been saying they've been loving it, they've been having a great time. But there's also been some really good feedback about, as GovBots level up, some of the rewards are a lot more rewarding than others right now, and like there's been some good feedback there about, like, okay, but like it feels like this one was kind of a dud, because by the time we did enough work to be able to get the GovBot to this level, like we've already built our own crafting stations and such.
Yeah.
So we're definitely keeping an eye on a bunch of that, and sort of looking at, like, how long is each step taking? How long is, how many people are actually participating? Who are the people getting elected right now? We're definitely keeping tabs on all that data coming in.
Yeah. Well, I know the first person to get elected was Dr. Drake.
I don't think surprised any.
No, he put so many hours. And then the second, and I found this out by accident, was Rodney. The producer on the team. And the way I found this out is through just one of those late night chats that the developers just sort of hold, where Rodney will be in there, maybe a couple others, and showing little sneak peeks of things that's in the works and stuff like that. And I was in one not too long ago, and Rodney's like, "Traitor, Chaos, you left as a citizen of where I was." And I was like, sorry, I just, I wanted to get in and get some video of actual being a citizen in a city building up and stuff like that. Nothing personal, I swear. Of course, he didn't see the evil grin behind the screen. I mean, but, and stuff like that. It is very interesting, interaction with the players. When I remember I was watching the live stream with you and Carneros and talking about how it worked, and one of my questions I was going to ask was, well, you can become a dictator, how does that happen? And you're like, oh, well, they get 80% or more of the votes, they can choose to become a dictator. So with that in mind, I know that there's a way to not be a citizen. With someone becoming a dictator of a planet, is there a mechanic in the game right now that will allow you to sort of overthrow that dictatorship without just sort of stop being a citizen? Or is that something that you guys are planning in the future, or just haven't thought of?
It's definitely something that is not in right now, but something like we're aware of. There's a lot of things that aren't in right now. In a lot of ways foundational. Another example, not just overthrowing dictators, but like right now, if like the mayor quits, stops being a citizen, we
Mm-hmm.
have things to like choose an interim mayor and like trigger the next election and so on and so forth. But we don't have any controls for like, what if the mayor just stops playing? What if the mayor just never logs in again after becoming a dictator?
Yeah.
Like, and that's definitely a case that we are going to need to handle eventually because no one wants to be like, well, we can't vote for a mayor because they declared themselves dictator, but like we're not gonna get a new mayor ever because they haven't logged in 5 months. Like, that's bad. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
We have to be a little careful with some of those controls though, because there is a very valid fear with a lot of players of like a player, like especially a guild comes in, they
Mm.
start building their little settlement from the very beginning. They get the first GovBot, they take control of this world. The guild installs one of their own as mayor. Like if a guild, like once they're running a planet, if they're like if they're trying to start like a utopian society where anyone can come in, anyone can join, anyone can have this thing,
Mm-hmm.
there's a very valid fear a lot of players have of like we put a lot of hard work into this and we wanted to share it with other players. Oh, but then like another guild just came in and they were a little bigger than us, so they just uh, outvoted us, kicked us all out, and then made a private world. And all of the work we did, they just took over.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to try to set up controls where like, yeah, no, if someone has declared themselves a dictator, like should there be a counterbalance to try to be like, hey, no, we the people's voice will be heard. There's interesting gameplay there for sure.
Yeah.
But we also want to make sure that we're not putting in controls that by the same metric, if someone is not like a cold, ruthless dictator ruling with an iron fist, but it's just like, no, this is just a guild that's put a lot of work in, make sure this a bunch of strangers can't swoop in and just steal the planet out from under them because it's like, well, yeah, this guild did a lot of work. They took control of this world and they got overthrown by using the anti-dictatorship controls. Like that
Yeah.
just, it feels bad for a lot of people. So it's definitely something we're talking about, we're looking into. There are almost certainly going to be some controls for it, but there's a fine line to cross to make sure it's being able to help a planet improve versus being able to take a planet from someone that has worked hard and tried to make it the best they can.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
And that's why I like is the fact that, I was a bit worried of, well, what if you missed the vote time? I like the fact that you guys thought ahead of time of, oh, you're just automatically voting for the current mayor. You have to manually go in and tell it, I want to vote for this person. And the fact that, you can also, I did it myself. I voted for myself on the planet. You can do that, or you can actually not choose to opt out of the election.
And that's one of the things that took me a moment to wrap my mind around, actually, because I'm still a little new to games. I haven't worked on MMOs nearly as long as like Raph Koster has.
Yeah.
Who's been doing this for a long time. But my first reaction when I heard like, yeah, no, the default vote is the current mayor. I was like, why is my vote being set by default? Why don't I get to choose this? Like, I feel like I should have an explicit slate. And like, it was pointed out that like, the fact that we have a voting system in the politics, the fact that control can change hands just by popular vote, like for all the reasons I was just talking about, that is in some places in some like MMO communities a controversial choice in general. They're like, why can't you're saying by default the mayor can be overthrown? Like, there's for some people that is worrying because they don't want to lose control of something.
Yeah.
So having it the current thing set up where like you auto vote for the mayor, there's a lot of systems in place to try to maintain the status quo. And it's like, yeah, if you really want to shuffle things up, you do have to get a bunch of players to band together. And if enough players are banding together to try to swap up the status quo, it's probably not just a hostile takeover from another guild swooping in. It's probably like, no, this is something that the entire planet wants. So.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm worried about is when it becomes election time, seeing a bunch of signs up that players built using the homestead pieces, either fabricated or Instaform blocks, saying "vote for so and so," and lights, and holding events and briberies going on. Which we already had that jokingly going on. Hey, come over to my planet. I'll give you this. No, come over to my planet. I'll give you this. It's sort of really interesting, and it's all in fun and games with the community that we have. But it sort of leads to what really happens in politics, and is really interesting. What are your thoughts of I mean, have you been on the Discord to hear the chat that people have been having about the politics system, or is it mainly just reading the Discord and the forums and stuff like that?
I pop in every now and then. I'm usually a little quiet when I pop in.
Mm-hmm.
Like if people want to talk to me specifically, like, I'm on Discord, you can always reach out. But like often when I pop in, I try not to like be like, okay, everyone, I'm here. Give me your feedback, because
Yeah.
there's something rewarding to me about just hearing what people chatter without realizing I'm right there sometimes.
Yeah, because
Um,
without them knowing you're there, you get the true honest
yeah,
feedback. They're not
not
worried
to say
about
that they're
like
less honest when I'm there, but like
yeah.
it's easier. People play differently when they know they're being watched, if that makes sense.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, it is. And I've seen that before because being a game tester and working in the industry and doing the
Oh,
market
you've probably seen
research,
it more
you
than
have the
me.
person sitting in the room, and then you have people in another room watching a monitor, watching them play, so that they can get honest, true gameplay from the person. Because it's human nature. Most people in human nature, you don't want to hurt another person's feelings. You're worried of hurting their feelings. So, knowing that that person's there, you're a bit more careful with how you ask questions, how, how you're interacting with the game and things like that. And so being sneakily and just sort of watching and not being noticed, you get more true, honest information, which allows you to make the game better.
And like even when I'm like not personally there, like we have an entire Slack channel
Yeah.
in our internal Slack dedicated for like if someone says something in the Discord chat, if there's an interesting Discord thread, if just basically if anyone sees anything that's like, okay, wait, I want to bring this up to the whole team, not just like, oh, I'll keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
We share things that I'm like, hey, this is a piece of player feedback that we should probably talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, we try to listen.
So I'm pretty sure with doing that with Slack, I'm pretty sure during the release of a new update, since Rodney's the main one always there, making sure the server's running correctly and stuff like that, and answering new player questions and things like that. He's the one spamming Slack all the time with the new stuff.
He probably posts there the most, but he's
Yeah.
definitely not the only one, especially with
No,
some of like
yeah.
the Discord
I mean,
threads.
that's the one thing I do like about testing Stars Reach is I'm used to doing so many of these tests where you get no real interaction with the developers. Stars Reach is different. We're always seeing, Rodney or Avi or you, even, Raph Costner and Dave Jordanson jumping in to voice chat and chatting with us. And, I mean, you guys, it's a small team. You guys are so busy doing so much with such a grand game that you guys are actually taking your time and coming and hanging out with us and answering our questions and playing with us and things like that. It's amazing. I've never seen it before. And I wish more game development companies would see what you guys are doing and emulate that, because when the players are interacting with you guys, we get all sort of giddy, and some of us get fanboyish and like, oh, it's light, yes, cool, and we have nicknames for the different developers, like Raph Costner, because he tells these great stories. It's like, Daddy Raph, can you tell us another story? And just things like that. You guys being a part of the community makes it so much more fun, because being able, you don't get the option to interact. Was that something actually planned and said, hey, we want you guys to interact with the community, or is it just something that naturally happened?
It's a little of both. I mean, the fact that it's an option means like there's definitely some people who will naturally lean towards it.
Yeah.
But there's definitely like a lot of like slightly more introverted players on the team, and like I'm a little more introverted myself. But like it's at the end of the day, like it's very easy to just like, no, we're gonna heads down, we're gonna keep working on this, we're just gonna like focus on this. We'll just throw things up to the community. Any feedback I need will get back to me. Like that's an easy way to think about things. But at the end of the day, we're making this for the players. If we're not willing to like play our own game or hop into the like Discord channels with the players, like, are we really making it for the players, or do we just think we're making it for the players and assuming we are, and we don't actually listen to what they really think?
Mhm.
Like it's weird to me to not get feedback like that.
Yeah.
Especially for an MMO where it's not just the interactions like between player and game, but player and player are so vital.
Mhm.
Just you can't keep a close eye on like how how those are going and how that's developing. What is your community doing in a community-driven game if you're in Discord with them? And not to say like everyone who plays the game needs to be in Discord. And like
Yeah.
we have a bunch of players, like especially as more and more of like Kickstarter people are getting invited in and getting keys and such. Not everyone who plays this game is even in the Discord server.
Yeah.
So
I'm
like, it's not everyone has to be, but like
yeah.
for those who are, like, yeah, no, we're definitely listening. We definitely hop into the voice chats, and everyone's welcome to be here. It's a solid community, and also just a
Oh,
fun community to listen to and talk to. It's not like we're just like, this is serious business work. I'm going to
yeah.
hop in
Oh,
Discord
yeah.
to
No.
take my feedback notes and then go write them up on a very official. Like, no, it's you laugh, you joke, you have fun. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's a good community. I'm very pleased and proud of the community we've
Yeah,
got.
it's a very fun community. Half the time I'm not even on Discord when I'm playing.
Mhm.
And that's more of like, okay, I need to get this footage done. It's more of when I'm more in work mode and I need to focus on what I'm doing,
Mhm.
that I don't jump on Discord. When I'm there just to have fun and goof around, I immediately jump in Discord because I know I'm gonna have a fun time. Because,
Yeah.
like you said, the community, and it's not just the community; it's the developers. Rodney joking around with us, you joking around with us, just having fun and things like that. It's like, you'll see one of the developers go off and they'll work on a project and they'll say, "Hey, I'm working on this." And then you hear a bunch of players, "Oh, cool, can I come and help out?" And they do that with other players. It's not just the
Uh-huh.
developers, and having fun with that. But you were also talking about the interaction with the world and things like that. With the GovBot put in, have you seen a major shift on how players are interacting with the world and what they're doing? Or is
Uh,
it just a slight shift or nothing at all?
I have been watching the like building and stuff too closely on the servers this update. I
Hmm.
know a couple of folks have. I know one thing we noticed is the deforestation efforts to try to harvest wood for the GovBot were definitely ramped up, and that's something we're thinking about.
Yeah.
But I'll admit I haven't spent too much time playing on the servers. I've
Hmm.
done some lurking in the Discord and like watching streams, but I haven't been watching the player buildings too close. I've been meaning to check that out, but it's been a little hectic this sprint.
Well, yeah. I mean, small team, a lot of work to get done. And that's the other thing I like is that I mentioned this on my year in review of playing Stars Reach, is that you guys put a little bit of functionality of something, then you move on and you put in another functionality. So you're putting in the frameworks for each thing, and then later on you grow it just a little bit. Like when you guys first put in combat, you had the 3 weapons that stayed that way for a long time. And then not too long ago, we got 3 new weapons. But then we also got a little bit of homesteading, and then we got a little bit of, a skill, more skills added in, and things like that. I think that's actually a smart move that you guys are building it that way, and not just going, okay, let's get this whole entire system in, get adjusted perfectly right, and then move on to the next thing. Is that planned from the ground up for you guys to work that way, or is that just something naturally that you guys are doing?
Oh, it's definitely planned. It's something we have to talk about a lot because it feels really like rough as a developer to be putting things out into the world
Hmm.
when they are just foundational, and we're like we can look at it and go like, this isn't finished, this isn't fully there yet, it's not fully fun yet, there's got UX issues, the UI is still needs a lot of work, and there's a
Hmm.
lot of functionality missing. It's just the basics, the framework. Like, yeah, as a developer, it almost hurts a little bit to like release this one like, but it's not good yet. I mean, it's okay, it might be good, but it's not great. It's not what we know it's going to be.
Hmm.
And there's always a little bit of a struggle as we're trying to say, okay, but at what point is it good enough that we can release it? And we always want to keep working on it, want to keep doing more. But we have to get the other things in, especially with a game with our economy that is as interdependent as it is. Like if we like fully, completely, 100% finished combat, but we didn't have crafting or homesteading or anything else in, like it'd be like, cool, we have a good combat game, but it doesn't matter. What about like any other play style? Like it doesn't. We need to get in all those game loops. Okay, but why does combat matter? It's because okay, you're gathering things that the crafters can use. So we need enough crafting that they can do something that will feed into combat. And crafting is to help homesteading. And then what does homesteading provide? Well, you can place crafting stations there. Well, where do you get all these like stations? Well, from the GovBot. Well, how do you do the GovBot things? Well, you need to harvest things. So you need harvesters, which means you need farmers. And like we have all these separate things that tie together. And if we perfect one thing, then we can ship that one thing the game, I guess. But like that's Stars Reach is a lot bigger than that. And if we spend too much time focusing on one thing, we run out of time to put in the other things that make that thing matter. So it's a rough balance that we always have to talk about to be like, okay, is this thing good enough? Does this thing need more polish before we can ship it to players and start getting feedback and start building on it later? Or do we build on it now? Or is there another piece of those like game loops? Like we have GovBot in, but like we don't have any politician skill trees in yet. And that's a huge part of government and politics and all of that is there's going to be a whole skill tree there. And we just have like a basic framework.
Yeah.
But that basic framework is a lot better than nothing. And we could like wait until that was all perfect and polished and ship it out. Not show you anything from GovBot until the entire skill tree is done. But then, how long would that take? How many things would be missing from other things? And how do what we think is perfect, like if we don't ship out an early version, if we're not being transparent with players, how can we be sure that what we think is perfect is what the players will think is perfect? That's a big part of why we just published our roadmap for everyone to see, is so we can even start getting some feedback on things like players can say, oh, this thing is coming up, these things are coming, and they can even start telling us their thoughts on things before we start working on it. It's just we're trying to be really open and really transparent with our players.
Yeah, and that roadmap, I honestly like the way the roadmap's done. I like the fact that you guys did not put dates in so that you can move things around as need be. Because being in development myself for games, I know sometimes you'll run into something that's a bit more difficult than you thought was going to be, so it needs to be pushed back. Or something ends up being easier to do than you thought was going to be. Or happens quicker than you expected, so you can actually push it forward some. And sometimes you just want to keep it in that area because it fits in line with everything else that you're wanting to put in for that update. And that's really sort of an important thing. And seeing that roadmap, I spend an hour going over that roadmap and digging through that roadmap with a fine-tooth comb. It's like
I'm glad.
Just like with when GovBot came in, I was like, okay, I need to play around with this. And, I found it fun and interesting because, as I've stated many times before, I love mining in this game. It's the only game where I'm actually addicted to mining. Even in No Man's Sky, I'm not addicted to mining because it's just like, oh, there's a clump of copper right on the surface, mine it up, I'm done. Stars Reach, no, you guys actually have it like branching out underground, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, this is getting fun. This is getting interesting. I did not expect with the GovBot to be, oh, I'm mining along. And then all of a sudden I hit a zone where they're like, oh, no mining here. And I'm like prevented from mining. Or that the fact that you guys have it so that the mayor can sit there and go, unless you're a citizen, you're not allowed to mine here. And I've actually ran into those issues. And I was like, oh, this is really sort of cool. And I found some bugs, like I had a MacGuffin I had to dig up for a quest I was doing. I wasn't a citizen of the planet, and MacGuffin was actually in the ground like it's supposed to be. And I went to mine up, and it's like, you're not permitted to mine here. Well, now I'm stuck. And then my tester mind started going.
It's something we're going to have to fix.
Exactly. But my tester mind started going and sitting there going, okay, how am I going to write this up? what severity
Mhm.
is this? And immediately went, okay, well, this is severity 3 because I can abandon this mission. If it wasn't, okay, it's a Sev 2 because it's blocking and I'm stuck with this quest.
Mhm.
But with that being said, talking about bugs, what's the bug stack looking like for things dealing with the GovBot? Is it small? Is it big?
As far as like literal bugs,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of like game breaking. Like it depends on like how you're categorizing that. We haven't found a lot of game breaking issues. There are like some nuisances. Like the one you just mentioned was
Mm-hmm.
a solid point where like it's like, oh yeah, the fact that you can get missions that you just literally can't come. The missions doesn't check your citizenship status and the mining rules and such.
Yeah.
Like that was that's definitely like it's not game breaking, but it's bad. We want to fix that. That's
Yeah,
just no
definitely.
one likes to be able to get a mission that they just can't complete. It's just no, that's stupid. Um, so like there are definitely some issues like that. A lot of the things that are going in the backlog are just things. The way we're seeing emergent players react to things and do things, and it's the tuning of like, okay, are the costs for things correct? Are the resources we're asking gotten feedback of like, yeah, no, all the combat players feel like they can't really contribute to the GovBot because it asks for like wood and seeds and coins and like there isn't much for like meat or any like resources that you get from combat. So like a lot of the combat players feel left out, and that kind of feels bad.
Yeah.
There's enough ask for wood that well, we're going to cut down every tree in this world. Uh, and that it makes sense. It's foreseeable, but like, is that the behavior we want to be encouraging with the GovBot? Should like there
Yeah.
be some like knobs to make it a little more responsible mining encouraged? That's a conversation we're talking about. So there's a lot of little things like that. As far as like game breaking issues, we haven't had too many so far, which is nice.
Yeah, which is really nice. Now, when you had things pop up like okay, you can't dig up the MacGuffin because you're not allowed to mine in this area, when you saw that bug, were you like Homer Simpson went, "Don't," or was that one of those things where you went, well, we knew about that, we just didn't have time, or that's set to happen later?
That was actually one that I overlooked. That was on me personally. It was just there are so many different, especially aspects of relation and such.
Hmm.
It's hard to perfectly keep in mind how every little piece is going to communicate and act back and forth, and that
Yeah.
was just a piece I missed,
Yeah.
frankly.
Well, I
um,
mean, there's so much to the GovBot. You're not, you're not a robot. You're not omnipotent, God type person. You're going to miss some things, especially with the team being so small and so much work that every person's putting in. Something's going to be missed. And that's where, us players can sit there and go, hey, there's this bug. And then you sit there and go, oh, crap, I forgot about that, or I didn't think about that. It happens to every
and
single developer.
even within QA testing, it's enough like, okay, you can test all the
Yep.
functionality of the GovBot and all the functionality of the mission board and still miss. Oh, but if the GovBot is set to these settings while testing the mission board, you can wind up with this edge case. I'm like, I try to keep the entire game in my head, but that's a lot of game.
I'm sorry, but if you tried to keep all the gameplay mechanics for Stars Reach into my head, I think it would explode. There's
I have
so
extra storage
much
space in the
there.
kitty ears. They just plug into my brain and start
Yeah.
game again.
There you go. But I mean, well, that's the great reason for having a dev doc, also,
Mhm.
especially with such a massive game, is because then when you see an edge case like that, you can amend the dev doc. And in game development, I've always thought of the dev doc as a living organism because it starts out as a small little thing of the base idea, and then as the game grows and you define the art style and you define the mechanics, more and more is added into it.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, in all honesty, when I think of the dev doc for Stars Reach, I'm thinking of something that's thicker than the Bible.
It's hard to give a page count on it because we do have it split into like a lot of separate files and broken out in places because otherwise I can only imagine with scrolling through how many
Oh God.
pages that would be in a single like document. No, no.
I'm on
We definitely have like an
5,000
internal
and
wiki and everything.
yeah, and having it split up is a smart move because then you know I'm needing this. I can go to this document to do that. Is actually honestly a smart move and things like that. So, what's one feature that you wanted to get in for the GovBot in this update that you were unable to get in due to time restraints, or it just didn't fit with the need for this update?
I don't know if I'd quite call it a feature, but one thing I was hoping to do is more thorough UI pass on it. Like right now, if you want to do like anything in the controls, especially if you're trying to like you're the mayor and you're trying to assign like mining licenses to players, you have to like navigate through like 4 UI windows and like check each individual's like permissions one by one. There's no real way to pull it like okay, give me a list of everyone I've given mining to. Give me a list of everyone who can like do this thing. Like there's not really a filtering for that, and there's just a bunch of just rough edges with the UI. Like I was hoping to spend a little more time working with our UI system to make that a little cleaner, a little easier to use, a little just a lot more player friendly. Which again, not really a feature, but it's a polished element that I think is one of the particularly rough edges right now.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure once you actually get that in, mayors like Dr. Drake will sit there and bow before your feet saying, thank you, oh great one.
Because and that's a general thing you always have to keep in mind as a dev. Like, no matter how like cool or interesting or powerful a feature is, if it's hard to use on the player side, it's not great.
And
so that's
it's
just
going to lessen the amount
that's on my side right now.
Well, it also lessens the amount that people use it.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
And that's the important thing. So now my next question for you is that it's been brought to my attention by several of the elder testers of the game. Want to know how you feel about being the prophet of spam.
I believe the full title is Reluctant Prophet of Spam. So that is a solid callback from some of the very early days of the official Discord.
Yeah, that was brought to my attention by the older testers. I was in Discord. I'm like, okay, I'm interviewing Light. Do you have any questions? And they're thinking. And I don't remember who it was, but they're like, ask them about being the prophet of spam. We want to know the answer.
Some choose spam, and some have spam thrust upon them.
Oh, and soon as, I mean, we literally sat down. We spent like 15 minutes coming out with how exactly I'm going to phrase that question, spacing out the pauses and just tweaking it perfectly. And it was great. You know, we were having fun.
I'm really pleased, like, to hear about like there are inside jokes in the community and stuff. One of the things that brings me great joy. It's so fun to be part of a team and the part of it, have the community like doing things like that.
Yeah, and I mean your reaction right then when I mentioned it, that laugh, and you did a nice, good, hearty laugh, which just shows that you have a good sense of humor. You are being a part of the community, which. Like I said, for those of you that don't know about Stars reaching the developers, you really need to jump in the Discord and hang out. You're going to get an experience that you don't get with any other game or with the developers, and you're going to have a good time. But I want to continue on with sort of the GovBot end of things. I know that the zoning right now is using sort of the homesteads as a way to do the zoning, and that to me was a smart move to start off with because it's an easy direct connection. Was that just sort of the initial idea of, okay, when we create this implementation, we're just going to use homesteads, or did you sort of pop up with the idea, or did another developer say, oh, let's just use homesteads for right now?
I mean, the core idea was we wanted, mayors and other government officials to be able to lay out a city, like doing things like what like Beanstalk had did for a while ago. We're like, okay, we're going to plan out the city, and this is going to go here, and this is going to go here, really give that power to players, and including like there are players who are not going to go as deep in get the ability to own homesteads themselves and stuff, but are still going to want to like do some building and participate in those ways. And we wanted to enable that through this government system. So we knew that was the goal. And it was a logical move to be like, a lot of game dev is trying to find how do we get the most bang for the buck, including like we don't want to have to like completely rebuild how do I zone out this special construction area where some players can build on their special permissions when we have homesteads, which is a special construction area where some players can build on and it has special permissions. Like if we have that framework, like why build a second almost identical system from scratch where the biggest difference is instead of a singular homeowner, it is owned by the GovBot.
Yeah.
So it just made sense to do it. It means it shares there is the same rough edges as homestead, like placing a homestead exactly where you want it. Like you don't good right now. If when you try to like line them up pixel perfect with each other, it's a bit of a struggle. Like so it inherited the same baggage of home.
Yeah.
But like it probably would have had that if we had built it from scratch and done it better, we would have needed to move that fix over to homesteads too to do it better.
Yeah.
So this was it was a quick way to do it that accomplished the same goal. And there are definitely things coming. There are fixes for like the placement to make it a little building such, and then there's also going to be like variant sizes and like ways to designate what kind of zoning. Is this like a public park? Is this a bank? So on and so forth. But those are all in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I sort of like is the fact that we can put in things like libraries, we can put in things like, a power system, a hydraulics system, and things like that. It's almost like you guys looked at SimCity and said, let's take that and put it in our game in a way, which is sort of nice, but it's not as, I don't think, as detailed and focused on city management as much because, if you were to do that, it would take forever for the game to release. I mean, 10 years down the line, yeah, it may have that whole entire functionality. Who knows? But when you brought up Beanstalk City, it made me think, when we did that and actually built that city, were you sitting down taking a bunch of notes going, okay, this is what I need to adjust here, I need to make sure that I do this and stuff like that? Did that really help you out with seeing us do that by ourselves without having the actual GovBot?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything that we watch players do, I mean, especially with the GovBot, a big point of the GovBot is to enable players.
Yeah.
So being able to see like the things that players are doing, even when we don't give them tools to do things, like we definitely take notes of like, okay, this is the kinds of things players will want. And like farming as a counter example, if you'll recall, farming as there's some work we did for like garden beds and stuff that we talked about a little bit and then haven't rolled out yet.
Yeah.
Because of the exact opposite. Like we try to build a lot of tools help players have an easier time and have more fun doing the things that they want to do. And we kind of realized that parts of how we had farming were based on how we thought players were going to do things, and then players were having more fun setting up a different way. And we were like, okay, well, are we just going to be putting a lot of guardrails and rules on farming that will restrict players instead of enabling? We're going to get back to that someday. Soon, I'm going to say soon with a lot of asterisks, clarifications. We want to ship some farming stuff, but I'm not going to specify exactly. But like that's just, we definitely keep track of what are players doing, what are players having fun doing, what are they not doing, and like how can we make this more fun for them? How is this going to build into the other system doing? What things are getting in players' way? What things are they struggling with? We keep track of all of that.
Yeah,
as best as we can. There's a lot of players and a lot of feedback, and floods sometimes, so we do our best.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much that you guys can do with a small team,
Mhm.
and I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of the developers, when it's time for their work to come into the game, they're running around like a chicken with their head cut off. So once the update comes out and there's not that many bugs, like with the GovBot, you said there's not many game breaking bugs. There's just some minor bugs. You probably get to sit back and go, ah, okay, good. I can relax now and take it a little bit easier.
I mean, sometimes I wish. I think it's more accurate to say is, "Ooh, I can relax and we got. Ooh, I have more time to work on this feature instead of just bug fixing."
Yeah.
Because there's always more to do.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. With having this chunk of the GovBot done, are you still continuing work with future stuff with the GovBot right now, or are you moved on to another feature that's being worked on? And if so, can you tell us or hint to us what that feature is if it's a different feature?
I am working on something unrelated to GovBot right now.
Mhm.
I am working on. Okay, I don't know how much we've said, so I'm trying to be a little cagey about this. Uh,
Cool.
there's a lot of uh, one of the big things that GovBot brought into the game
Mhm.
was it gave direction for players who, like we were talking about this earlier, it gave a little
Yeah.
more direction for players who had a million choices and didn't know what to start with.
Mhm.
I'm building a couple more things that'll give a little more direction to especially newer players. That is
Okay.
as far as I'm going to say right now because I can't remember for sure if we've announced what we're doing. I'm pretty sure it's a check, and I don't want to spoil
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, yeah. But I'm not doing my job if I don't ask those hard questions that make you sit there and go, can I talk about that? I gotta make you sweat just a little bit.
Like we're trying to be transparent, but
Yeah,
we also I'm not the one who usually reveals exactly which bit we're being transparent about right now.
yeah.
I try to be a little cagey.
Well, and that's the thing. You're not Raph. You can't just go, I'm gonna throw this out. Who's gonna yell at me? Myself? And that's the important thing. Uh so what is one feature of the GovBot that's going to be added in the future that you're looking for and that excites you?
I'm looking forward to getting in more of the politician skill tree,
Mm-hmm.
where it's not just oh yeah anyone can be mayor, but like it's there are incentives for like actually taking the time to like mentor new players and play an important role in the community and feeling rewarded for your community, not just because like you're voted mayor or you're not, but like having a lot more granularity there, where as a there are mechanical reflections of how much work you're doing in your community, how much your community values the way. Like I'm excited for some of the politician skill tree stuff.
That's
It'll
going to
be a lot
be
of fun to work on.
definitely interesting to see because, we see some of the future stuff happening with the skill tree. Due to the data entry work that Dave Jordanson has done. And that's going to be really interesting seeing some of those actually come to life because I'm looking through the skill tree and going, ooh, I want to play around with this, I want to play around with that. And every time you guys add some new stuff, I'm changing what I'm planning to do in the game. And I'm just like, there's so much in this game that's so fun that I don't know, it's that complete freedom. I mean, I've done sandboxes before. I've done, Star Wars Galaxies and Planet Side, which are literally you are not given any direction on where to go, what to do. You make your own direction. I was able to do that. With this, I was thinking the same way, but then you guys announced like a new skill tree or a new system. And I'm just like, I gotta play around with that. I gotta see what that's like because, like I said, with mining, it threw me for a complete loop in taking something that I hate doing and turning it into something I love doing. And, even with the stuff that I love doing, every time, every so often you guys add an update and it makes it more interesting. Like, when combat was first introduced, all the mobs were white. And I was sort of like, after a while, after a couple updates, I'm like, okay, this is getting boring. And then you guys added in the levels of difficulties of the mobs. I'm like, now this is fun. Now we're seeing people actually forming those soft groups and taking on those reds and those purple groups of mobs. And I was like, okay, now combat's interesting to me again. And it's those constant changes and adding of features that I'm just like, I don't know what I'm being pulled in so many different directions and having so much fun, and the GovBot did the same thing with the, okay, well, I can do the missions, but this is sort of, okay, I just get this one. It's the, right now they just feel like fetch quests, quick, simple fetch quests. But you guys announced early on that that's literally what this is. With the requirements for the GovBot for leveling up, it's actually, okay, I need to go out and get so much of this to feed to the GovBot so it has those resources to level up. So now I'm going out and I'm just grabbing whatever quests to grab the Klatus to feed to the GovBot, or I'm going out and I'm mining a bunch of resources to give to the GovBot, or harvesting a bunch of resources to give to the GovBot. It's not exactly a mission, but feels like a mission. And like you said, it gives that guidance. And I'm glad that it's just at its first level and layer, just like missions, and that more's coming in for what the GovBot will offer you to do to level up. How much more expansive is that whole entire requirement system for leveling up going to expand out in different options?
I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about how the GovBot leveling up is going to expand right now, but using your other example of missions or just kind of basic fetch quests, those are going to be expanding sometime in the relatively near future, asterisks, soons and stuff, because those are also pretty foundational. So there is definitely a work happening there. I'm going to be cagey about the GovBot progression system for the moment.
Oh! Darn you. I mean, but okay, so let's move on to another thing. Let's go back to the zoning lots. You guys have said that the way that works with the homesteads is just sort of temporary and that you guys are planning on expanding it. But the one thing that wasn't mentioned in the patch notes is how many zoning lots do you guys get? Is it unlimited? You just, as soon as you do it, it's, you can use as many to cover the planet as possible, or is there a certain amount locked per level? And if it is locked per level, how many do you get per average level?
For the moment, it's unlimited. I'm not going to promise it stays unlimited, but right now we wanted to see what players will do with it if there isn't a restriction. Are they going to just start by covering an entire world with them? Are they going to just only use them where they? It's something we didn't want to restrict it out the gate, but where I'm not going to say that there will never be restrictions.
Yeah.
Especially because that is a very easy, clear knob. Good leveling up, like, oh yes, you can have more zoning. We like having those kinds of knobs available, but in this moment, in this first pass, they are currently unlimited as long as you can.
Okay, so the next thing is with that is, that allows players to go wild. And like you said, control and see what they're doing. You're probably sitting there crossing your fingers going, please use it right. Please use it right. Please use it right. So that you're not having to go in and do that, because that's a lot of balancing. If you're going to have to limit that, you're going to have to sit down and determine, okay, do I put a bell curve to this in the leveling system where it starts out giving you a small amount and then gives you more, and then it drops down, all that kind of, game development type stuff. Is that fun for you to do that kind of thing? Or does that feel more like work and you'd rather be doing something else?
That kind of a systems balance is, I think it is interesting thing with. Yeah, in a weird way, I didn't go into game dev because I'm like, I love video games. I want to make them. I actually went into game dev because I love math and physics, but a lot of those jobs are real boring. Where can I have fun using them?
Yeah.
So I love that kind of system balance. And one of the big advantages quite a bit of the game is we try to make it as data driven as possible.
Mhm.
So that as we want to start putting in, those kind just like go, whether it's a bell curve or a flat line, or if we want to just do a specific number at each level, we
Mhm.
try to implement things in a way where like once we want to add those things, it's not like oh gosh, I'm going to have to spend a week finding out how to restrict zoning lots to the specific number. Like we have the systems in place that we can start adding limits. Like it'll be a little work, but it should be fairly quick. And then once it's in, if we want to change, like okay, we tried to put the zoning lot limits in, it's like this. Then we want to do something else. Like it should just be tweaking numbers at that point.
Yeah.
We try to, and that's part of why we are able to push content out as quickly as we do, which is I think one of the we've been in development for quite a while, and
Oh yeah.
a lot of that time was making the back end systems and pipelines so that we can move quickly and just kind of you're talking about how you're constantly being pulled in other directions because we keep producing new things. I think just the fact that we can keep producing new things like that is a huge win.
Yeah, definitely. And plus you're using Unity, so I'm pretty sure you guys created a little thing to where you can just quickly go in and tweak numbers
Mhm.
and add in the numbers without having to find that chunk of code,
Yes,
that line of
exactly.
code and stuff like that. Makes the job so much easier. And so you probably sit there and look at that and go, oh, thank God. Because, I'm not a coder, and me trying to
Mhm.
look at a bunch of lines of codes, my eyes are going to get lost because my disability. But that's why I don't code, and when I do, I actually prefer node based system over lines of code.
Mhm.
It's just easier for me. And when I
Yeah.
was doing things in Unity, every time I was coding something, I was making sure that, okay, if I need to adjust and balance this, I need to make a little thing that will pop up on the side to where I can adjust like the health or the damage or
Mhm.
this value or that value of like maybe run speed or something like that of a character moving. And how much of your time in developing the GovBot were you making those little side tools to make things easier for you in the future?
So like during GovBot building that side tool,
Hmm.
basically no time because the site the tool we have for that, it basically just automatically reads all of every new script file we make and every time object we define. It kind of just goes in there automatically.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's not a perfect tool. It
Yeah.
has it's a couple of pages. It does, but we put time into it at the beginning. And now like when I make the GovBot, like yeah, all I have to do is like they all happen automatically. If there's numbers I don't want to show up in that tool, if there's something else like no, this is kind of an under the hood only thing, one
Hmm.
time only thing. We don't want to just clutter the tool and confuse whoever poor designers put the numbers in.
Yeah.
Like there's like one little flag I put on whatever that variable flag. Hey, don't show this in the object type editor. But like that's all the effort it takes. The rest of it just gets put into that little side tool automatically, which is real nice. It's one of the reasons we can iterate so quickly. It's the tooling just is there. It works.
Okay, excellent. Now, do you have any plans to jump in the game and try to become mayor anytime in the future?
I think I'm okay not being mayor. I mean, Rod managed to become the first mayor by being the top. I think he said it took him about 30 hours of playing to do that.
Hmm.
And as much as I love this community, I don't think I'm going to spend that much time just to try to become mayor. I would rather run around looking at what other things players have done, and um, also just I play a lot of on our internal servers, trying to test features there and stuff.
Yeah.
And also just like I love to see what the players do. I don't want to take mayorship from someone else who was gunning for it just because I can.
Yeah.
So I'm probably not going to gun for mayor, but I'm probably going to jump in and become a citizen somewhere, and especially see what people are building.
Okay.
I try not to like do too much on the Plato servers right now because like I don't want to I think of the best way to phrase it. I want to see how like players do things, and I feel like if I'm like going and look at this thing you can do, if I do that too much, I feel like I'm wrong against the players going to figure this out themselves. Like, is this a place where we need to guide players to and stuff? And it I get more feedback when I'm a little more passive.
Yeah. So, well, I was just thinking myself, with this being on, have you actually become a citizen of any of the planets? And if so, what planet was that?
I
And
am
why
not a
did you choose
citizen.
that planet?
I am not a citizen of a planet right now.
Mm-hmm.
Partially, I've been kind of seeing like I want to see like what governments are sort of sprouting up right now.
Okay.
But I am looking at I think it's Barakatus that players have been building a lot on. I can't remember the top of my
Yes.
head. Yeah, I think I might hop in there and just if nothing else, just to see how the citizen experiences there, like how they've got all the missions set up.
Yeah. They have
I
it.
can view that all data all as a dev, but like
Yeah. But
playing around with it is a different experience.
exactly. Looking at numbers gets a little bit boring. Watching the actual players do it in the actual
Exactly.
environment is a lot more fun. So I'm going to recommend to the listeners to go back and watch previous live streams with Light being in it. Find his character name. Go to Baracus when it comes to a vote. Vote for Light. Let's see Light become a mayor.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah. And trust me, you'll have the most power of any single mayor, considering you have the control of all the back end behind you. You'll be able to do things that no other mayor's been able to do before.
I mean, that is technically correct, though. Technically, I can tweak those knobs without being mayor.
Yeah.
I have those dev powers, but I don't, because that. Why would
Yeah.
I use those dev powers in the main game when unless I had to?
Yeah.
I mean, it's more interesting to see how it plays out naturally.
Yeah, and you also don't want to overuse those dev powers, because then you have happened with what happened to Brad McQuaid, one of the developers of EverQuest. He was so used to having invulnerability on that when he was in an underwater zone, he was hearing this glug 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 glug, and he's like, "What's that sound effect?" And then he realized, just as the breathe bar went to 0, that, he forgot to put his invulnerability on, and he didn't have breathe underwater, so he rushed to swim to the top and died before he could get to the top.
I hadn't heard that one, but I believe it. That's what we encourage, especially like even on our internal servers. We have a bunch of dev commands, especially like take shortcuts and test things, but like as much as possible, try to encourage everyone to not use those while testing, because you don't want to taint your perception of
exactly
how easy bits of the game are.
Yeah.
Even things like we just pulled /camp out of, which I think in a lot of ways has made the game. I think there was probably at least a couple of players who's like, but that made it so easy. Like,
it did.
It was there as a cheaper version of Unstuck.
Yeah.
And now we have a better Unstuck that it still needs a little work. We've gotten at least 1 or 2 player as far as like bug type things. Like, okay, I was in this situation and Unstuck didn't actually unstick me. I was still stuck under a plant. So there's going to be a little revising on that still, but
yeah, a little extra checks that the system has to make. But hey, that's the way things work. Now, with this update also came the whole entire thing for the the plant that's less used or misused will go away, and new plant's going to take its place. Were your hands on that also, or was your just focused on the GovBot?
I didn't have to do any work for that. That's been mostly on the engineering. As far as like the design considerations go, that's largely like just testing a proof of concept. Like once we have like the full game, like I'm over these playtest servers we've had for however long we've been running this. It's quite a while now. It's been typically like the 3 worlds that are always there, and then fairly recently even we added the wild wormhole world where like, okay, this is here but for limited times and it's cycling out. But we've always said, like, once we have the full game and lots of players, like we can't just have one space zone and 3 or 4 worlds. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna need to be able to chain space zones together and spin up new worlds as player counts increase and demand increases. And then as we're spinning up worlds, if you wind up with worlds ravaged and they're stripped of all resources and there's no there and it does go there, we can't just let that world sit and run empty forever. That just uh, both from a gameplay perspective, it's not fun to have a garbage go to because if someone goes, "Oh, here's another world," and pops into it and just finds this ravaged wasteland. Wow, this world sucks. I
Yeah.
just wasted an hour of my time trying to explore it. And even just from a strictly pragmatic development, every server we have up and running is that costs money to run.
Yep.
Like if no one's going there, it's not a fun to be able to close down, save out, and close down empty barren worlds and spin up new ones. And a lot of this, what we're doing with this right now is just testing that system to make sure it works. To be like, okay, can we close down a world? Can we spin up a new one? Like, oh, are there problems? Like, we know we can. Is it efficient enough? Is it like our means of detecting everything working enough? Are there rough edges there that are going to take up dev time that need to not take up dev time and we need to build better tools for? A lot of it is just testing that out so that when we do have the point where we have, you know, tens, hundreds, maybe thousands of worlds, I don't know what kind of numbers we're gonna. It depends on the number of players we have and everything. But the
Okay.
game needs to scale based on the player counts. And it
Yeah,
needs to
definitely.
scale very well. And so this is just to test to make sure that we have scaling tools without actually doing the scaling this second.
And that's one gameplay mechanic that no other MMO has. The game can scale with the size of the player base. All other MMOs, when the players start to dwindle, you hear of server merges. Two servers being combined into one, and the player bases being combined together. The way you guys are doing this with each world being a server and being able to take it down and bring up a different one, or just completely take it down to save some money and resources because there's not enough players, but then when more players come on, you can bring up more worlds, is, I think, a great idea, and really gonna make the money management side for you guys a little bit easier, because then you're not having these empty servers running, leaking money. You can just shut it down and you're saving money that way. It, in my mind, is like efficient, and I bet you anything future MMOs are going to look at that, and that's going to be the first thing that they're going to want copy, because it saves companies money.
It saves money. It's really efficient for us, but it's also really nice on the player side. I mean,
Oh yes.
the other big advantage of it is, there hasn't been big sandbox MMO that has like really been wildly successful for a while. A lot of the sandbox games are small. You host your own server, and having those individual servers, and especially with GovBot type, get that kind of feeling in a lot of ways while still having an MMO scale. Like you can have, this world is just run by this guild, and it's not quite the same as having a private server just for you and your friends, but it's a lot closer to it than you get in most MMOs. You can set the rules for a lot of people, and who is allowed to be a citizen here, and what can citizens do. Like in a lot of ways, it's a soft version of giving players private servers, still connected to the wider MMO. Again, it's not quite a private server, but it's a level of control that you just don't typically see in MMOs, and I think a lot of players will find very appealing.
Yeah, definitely. So I only have a couple more questions for you that I'm gonna let you go so you can get back to your work. So with talking about these worlds coming up and being taken down, do you guys actually have a set time frame where you guys will be doing that, just like the voting happens every couple weeks for mayor, or is it gonna be happening randomly?
I don't think it's going to be totally random. I believe we have a I haven't been part of the conversation of exactly what that time frame is.
Okay.
But I believe the plan is to clearly communicate with the players, and you're not just going to log in one day and oops, this world's gone. Like I believe the plan is to communicate that I do not know exactly what that time frame is, though. I
Well,
haven't been part of that part of the engineering testing.
okay. Well, here's the thing: there are some of the players who don't pay full attention to everything that's happening in Stars
That
Reach. So
that's
there are
true.
going to be a handful of players where they're going to pop in and go, "Where did this world go? What happened here?" And be
Mhm.
surprised with the new world or some changes. And that's sort of really interesting, and it's got me excited because I remember when you guys turned off that the creatures affect the world's environments and creating craters and stuff like that, and morphing the terrain along with the big asteroids doing that because the planets were looking so divoted and pockmarked and stuff like
Mhm.
that. I think with having the GovBot and having the worlds being switched out, I think honestly I want to see you guys bring that back.
And we're looking at doing some of that again. At least, like, we don't want to like be like, okay, we'll put these controls pockmark it again. But we're looking
Yeah.
at ways of like, how can we do this without doing as much pockmarking?
Yeah.
And there's also some other. I was going to say something, but I'm not going to tease it. There's some other
Oh!
exciting ways that worlds will evolve
So
very
so
soon.
so you're
Testing.
teasing without
I
teasing. I
It's like,
see how you
let me
are.
pull up the roadmap. Have we talked about this? Is this on the roadmap? One sec. Can
Okay.
I tease this one? Almost everything we work on is on the roadmap.
Yeah.
I
Well, you gotta keep some things a surprise to make us go ooh ah.
Oh
Gotta
yeah,
have
no, it's
that.
fair. It's the water cycle. The water
Yeah,
cycle
the water cycle. Yeah,
is
yeah.
being worked on. Yeah, that's going to do a lot to change the worlds over in fun and interesting ways.
Yeah,
I was like, there's no way we haven't talked about this one. I'm so used to being like, don't spoil it. But like,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure everything big we're working on is on the roadmap.
Yeah,
Um,
you're sitting there going, "Don't spoil it, don't spoil it." I'm sitting there going, "Spoil it, spoil it, spoil it."
it's not a spoiler. It's on the roadmap. Water cycle.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
water cycle.
But well,
It's right now. We're just
and
looking
here's
really
the
cool.
other great thing: the reason why people need to be jumping on the Discord. A couple nights ago, I was on the Discord and it wasn't any playtime or anything like that. It's just a bunch of us sitting around talking, and Rodney was there along with Raph Costner, and Rodney was sharing his screen, and Raph and Rodney were showing off the basis of that whole entire erosion and things like that. And we're all sitting there watching it, and we're making comments and like, well, what about this? And what if this? What if you did that? And trying to help out. And it was really, really fun because they weren't like, oh, well, you don't know what you're doing. They would just go, well, it actually works this way. It explains how it works. And then we would come up with other ideas. And we felt like we were being of help. And there were times where Raph and Rodney would go, "Oh, that's an interesting idea. Let's sort of check into that." And just plus, we also got to see a look at things that are a work in progress.
Mhm.
Name one other game development company where you've seen that kind of interaction between the players and developers. I can't.
Like
And
I'd be surprised if it was just us, but you're right. I can't think of another game where I've like hopped into like Discord calls with the devs. Like I think there are like sometimes you get that with other games that have been like really small indies that have been on
mhm.
doing Kickstarters and that like they have a high tier. Like if you're on this tier, you can get access to like the secret section of the Discord. So I think
Yeah,
there are definitely some like especially smaller companies that do it, but like
yeah,
most of them aren't making MMOs or working at the scale we are.
exactly. But
Which is a pity. I think you'd think a bigger company would be easier to do that kind of thing, and yet
yeah, exactly. But it was
not,
really
not that we're a big company, we're still pretty small and scrappy.
yeah,
We are one of those Kickstarter ones.
exactly. But you guys did the Kickstarters to show the investors that's
Yes.
worth investing. And from what I've heard from like Raph is that it actually ended up paying off, and actually some of the
Absolutely.
Kickstarters became investors and threw even besides the Kickstarters threw in extra money and stuff like that. And I'm glad to hear that because I spent so many years after Star Wars Galaxies shut down going, I want a game like what Star Wars Galaxies originally was before the NGE, before they put in the class system. I liked the skill list system. I liked that whole entire feel. And I remember hearing every so often murmurs of Raph Costner saying, I'm trying to come up with an idea of what to do. And then when I heard Stars Reach, I immediately jumped on. I signed up, and I'm glad I did, because I've mentioned this to a few other developers, but I used to get addicted to like City Heroes and Star Wars Galaxies and EverQuest, where I was playing so much that I was actually losing jobs. I was losing sleep. I actually had to train myself to schedule myself so I wouldn't be that hooked in. And I'd done that. And it was this last playtest weekend that I was playing, and I looked at the clock, and I'd gone 3 hours behind the time.
Oh no!
That I was supposed to start at. I immediately went, I'm gonna have to go back to setting an alarm clock. I'm gonna have to do that.
It's good of you to set those kinds of boundaries. I'm pleased to hear that we were immersed enough that we gotcha. I'm also glad you set those boundaries for yourself.
It's bad news for yourself. Good news for you. Every developer that hears this is going, yes, we've done exactly what we're aiming for. And the only thing I request is do what EverQuest did later on. Put in an alarm clock feature in the game.
I could see us doing that.
It's just
I'm not going to promise it, but like, that's a very player-friendly thing. Especially like I love like Satisfactory. I think is the one I was playing recently. I think every 2 hours it goes like, hey, you don't have to stop playing, but like maybe get a drink of water, maybe stretch your leg.
Exactly.
And I think that's just a real nice thing when games do that.
It is, and I mean, that's really helpful to me because I used it in EverQuest. When they put in that feature, I used it religiously, and it's what literally helped me break that bad habit of overplaying and things like that, because you're having so much fun, and that's what literally shows the fun that you're having is by losing track of time. And I'm starting to get that. I knew I was going to get that feel from Stars Reach. Just by talking to the developers and seeing the direction the game was going. But now I'm actually getting that feel. I'm like excited, and I'm sort of like, oh crap.
and that's really heartwarming feedback, because like we are still alpha. There's a lot of core systems in the game we're still putting in just their foundational parts, not even their like fully fleshed, fully polished, like we were saying earlier. The feeling that like we are hitting the point where like players are just losing track of time and sinking tons of time into it. Like that is, we've been seeing some of it, but it's very, and it's that is definitely a fuzzy, feels good thing for a dev to hear.
Oh, yeah. As soon as I mentioned it, I saw your face go to a good big smile and a laugh. It's like, yes, we've hit that goal. And I'm sitting there going, you bastards.
Give it another one.
Yeah, exactly. So my last question is there anything you can sort of give us a spoiler on?
I don't know if I can really spoil. I mean, again, with like the roadmap, I was like even looking at some of the stuff I was like being cagey about earlier about like being a guidance. Like a lot of that is on there as overhauling the first time user experience. I can say it's not really a spoiler, but like the graphics update that is coming. Like we've had a couple of videos we've posted. If you haven't looked at those, check those out, because that is going to be very. We've been almost joking internally that it's going to be another game that we're just released when it's a patch.
Are you guys talking about
not to raise the expectations too high, but like it's coming along real good.
Are you talking about the lighting and fog one?
Yes, that exactly.
Yeah. So during that test with the erosion test, they also went into a cave and showed that, and I was just like, dang!
Caves look like caves now.
Yeah, you're actually. Well, it was funny because Rodney was going into a cave and he immediately turned around and walked out. And he's like, I need to get light. Because you literally almost couldn't see anything. You saw a little bit of texture, but it was so dark you couldn't really tell what that texture was. It just sort of gave you an idea. And he got so deep into the cave, it was literally almost pitch black. I'm like, yes, there's the reason for the lights. That's why the lights are there. That's what I'm looking for, because then I can see myself sitting there mining. I have a light, and then the light go out, but I don't have enough resources or abilities to build a camp to make a light. And now I'm lost in this cave. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And then the worry of having mobs in those caves. And what if it's an aggressive mob that you run across? And for any of the artists on the dev teams that's listening to this, if we're gonna have dark caves, have some of the creatures with glowing eyes just to freak us the heck out. Would be mwah.
We've got some fun, especially once darkness like matters a little more. Like there's definitely some tweaks we need to do in general. Like right now, there's especially on some monitors, like just normal nighttime is like pitch black, and like that's not how that's supposed to be. But like especially as we're getting like caves a little darker, like we have been talking about more interesting ways to have lighting options than just the drone light, which is currently available in the game.
Well, so, like glowing underground plants.
See some of those coming in sometime in the future.
Yeah, that'd be cool, and that's where the artists can come in. Is there could be glowing crystals, glowing underground plants, like I said, the glowing eyes from creatures, stuff like that. It's really important. But I've taken enough of your time. I want to thank you for taking your time to sit down with me and talk about the GovBot and some of the other features in Stars Reach. Everyone, have a great day.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. May the spam be with you.
That's great. Bye, everyone.